consider like doing another Ramones tour, like if that option was available?
Oh, in a heartbeat. I would say yes, in a heartbeat.
What's your take on cancel culture?
I think that it's a blight on on humanity. Actually, I think it's a dress rehearsal for mass execution. Last time I saw Dave, the things that he said to me will go with me to my grave.
First of all, thank you so much for your time today, Michael. I would really, really appreciate it. So back in...
You're welcome.
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you. I appreciate you having me on here, giving me the opportunity to speak and talk. I just got back on Twitter at Radio Deadly, Instagram at The Real Michael Graves, and Facebook. It's a really, really cool fan page on Facebook. We put a lot of stuff up there that's exclusive just to that page, at Graves1119. And of course, officialmichaelgraves.com. Officialmichaelgraves.com. If people go to officialmichaelgraves.com and sign up for the newsletter, when the site comes back up online, it's a brand new site coming up in about a week or so, you're going to get an exclusive download of a new song that I composed when I was in East Texas in September. Really awesome tune.
Amazing.
It's called Time Traveling Man.
Back in 2019, you had a show in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I was not able to attend to the show, but we covered it with Pogopedia, and let me tell you, the crowd was pretty wild. I'm pretty excited with your show. Yeah. And they were very grateful because of the tickets. They were actually pretty affordable for everyone. The economy here in Argentina, well, it's not the best in the world right now.
Yeah.
So everyone was pretty excited to be able to attend to the show.
It was an incredible time. I remember that show. Yeah, I really feel, dare I say, the spirit of punk rock, especially when I'm in places like Buenos Aires, much more so than a lot of the places, that I feel when I tour in America. I don't know how to explain it, how to put it into words, but the love and the admiration and just the sense, the energy, the overall energy that I recognize from individuals and the collective energy of the show. Everybody singing and dancing, and there's no violence, and it's just, I look out on the crowd and not only do I see, it's awesome, because people come to the shows and they put makeup on so they have these skeleton faces. So I look out over these crowds and you just see them pockmarked with these skeleton faces looking back at me. But it's not a scary thing, because everybody's always smiling. And that's the energy of a Michael Graves show. And a lot of people don't understand that. Anybody that hasn't come to a show that I've done, whether it's acoustic or a full band, and maybe they don't really know, they know Michael Graves and they know the Misfits. And then they think that it's going to be like, something more like a Marilyn Manson show, where not that it's a bad thing. I love Manson, but like a dark, macabre, sad, sort of angry type of thing. And certainly the music has all those types of elements in them. But it's amazing what we've done. It's amazing what we've done, because we've taken that genre and those macabre, dark things that are ingrained in our movement and in our music, and it's become this beautiful thing where through it we've somehow found, especially in the concert times, how to celebrate life and to lean on each other and love each other and enjoy being with one another. It's a great thing, and that's why I stand, after the shows, I always, Arturo always comes to the side of the stage, and he and I We walk together. He walks me to the merch table, and I stand there for as long as I possibly can until I meet every single person that wants to meet me and take a picture with whomever wants to, or in some cases when security says that that's enough and they kick us all out. So yeah, when I come to places like your city and your country, it's an amazing thing that I'll always have with me and I'll never forget. I'm grateful for in an amazing way, and which is another reason why the past year and what's happening with this whole virus thing and the way that the world has been shut down. It's especially hurtful when I can't get to people, and I know when people can't get to me.
Definitely. And talking about that, mosh pits or pogo, as we call it here, it's a big part
Yeah.
of the shows. Like, has anyone reached out to you regarding this? Like, hey, man, we are really missing the mosh pits. Like, this is a way for us, like a
Yeah.
therapeutical way for letting the anger go out, like every other pressure of our
I
daily
hear
jobs.
I get mail across my social sites that articulate that sentiment 100%. We as humans, we're no different. Our brains, our bodies are no different than they were thousands and thousands of years ago. Throughout history, dancing and singing have been an integral part of who we are as humans. And so yes, in our music, when we pogo and we mosh, one of the things that I in punk rock and I used to talk about when I was younger, there was a lot of violence in slam dancing. It's like, all right, that's fine. But another part of the mosh pit is when people start to do the circle pit, right? They call it the circle pit, and they start
Yeah.
to dance around. And
Hmm.
I love that element because it it's people working together as a unit, right? And everybody's doing their own thing. So we're
For sure.
expressing our individuality. I'm dancing the way that I want to dance, along with 50 other people. And not only is that tied to a lot of spirituality and something else that you see in humans in the way that we whether it's religious sites or ancient rituals, you see this circumventing, right? This walking, this circular movement. It looks like a tornado, and it's the
Yeah.
coolest thing in the world to be able to be on stage and from far away and to see that happening in the crowds. It's great. I miss it so much. I never thought I would miss it as much as I do, but I do.
So now getting a little bit to talk about like the COVID pandemic, how have you been dealing with it? Like, do you think your creativeness got stuck or just the opposite?
No, I don't think that my creativity necessarily was affected. I mean I was affected in ways that are very similar to a lot of other people, most people probably that have been going through this. I made a decision early on when on the way home actually, and I'll never forget that drive. Sitting next to Arturo and on the for a lot of it on the phone with a friend of mine, Greg Reese, and I and through both talking to Arturo and Greg, I made a commitment to myself that I wasn't going to allow what was happening to dull my spirit or to squash what's inside me, the creative, the music, the art, that part of me that makes me me. That it was going to be hard. It was going to be hard to not let the circumstances do that
Definitely.
to me. And one of the ways that I did that was by getting online and trying my best to become more active in this podcasting thing, getting back to broadcasting and talking to people through this microphone and saying that we have to stay creative, we have to stay in touch with one another, we have to talk about how we're feeling about these things, and that was and continues to be very therapeutic for me, and I hope therapeutic for other people.
Do you think that COVID pandemic has had a big impact in your economy and those around you? Like you used to tour a lot. Probably you have a lot of friends or artists that you know that were currently on tour, and because of the pandemic, that was not what an option anymore.
Yeah, well, the pandemic has had a terrible effect on the American economy. When all the businesses shut down a year ago, it's obviously it's a lot different than say Google or Amazon. When you have small businesses, small clubs, small venues, small restaurants,
Yeah.
small bars, whatever. Maybe you sell, I don't know, maybe you sell stickers or you have whatever the case. Small businesses got decimated because in a lot of ways, small businesses were just recovering from a very difficult economic time. And so everybody, which made it even more hard hitting because here we are, we were small businesses, we were on our feet again. I saw it as a musician, as a small business person myself, because I had to deal with whether it was printing a T-shirt or booking a band at a venue. These small businesses were thriving, and that money that was flowing through the system was trickling down to people like me. It was giving me the opportunity to work and make enough money to where then I can employ other people. You know, I
Right.
pay my band good. I pay people that work with me good money, and I love doing that. So when COVID hit, that really decimated small businesses, and I'm blessed. I'm lucky. You know, I have a name, and I was able to work all around the world and amass savings to be
Hmm.
able to get through this. 9 out of 10 guys didn't. There's guys that were playing that had bands that they'll never get back to where they were. Some guys will never play again. You got to think some of these guys in their late 20s, in their 30s, they have families, they have kids. They have to, we don't have record contracts. They don't have record contracts. It's not like money's just flowing in. And so, again, large swaths of our community, of the musical community, has been decimated. Guys that were playing won't be playing, again.
Hmm. What do you think about live show streamings? Like, have you attend to one of them? Like, what's your stand on them?
I think it's great. I think that it's great, and I think that it's terrible. I think that it's great. I haven't really. I have a 12-year-old daughter, and she was like a big fan of some of these pop stars that did some of these live streams, and they were very cool. What an incredible thing to be able to sit in our living room and watch this, you know, this performance and see other people interacting and commenting in real time, and they would have the behind the scenes thing, and it was very cool. However, there is no substitution
Of course,
for
not the
for
same.
being in a room with hundreds of people, with thousands of people, and
Yeah.
and everybody is singing, and the temperature is different, and there's this smell in the air, and you can interact one on one and listen to everybody singing at once. There's something magical about that. That's interfacing with everybody,
Yes.
and that interact. You can't mimic that in a synthetic way.
So that got me wondering, like, if you ever were to come back to a live show, like old school, right? So do you have to do some training, like a vocal training, like a physical training?
Both, yes. As I've done on every single tour I've been on since I was 20 years old. I'm 46 now. Yes, before each and every tour that I've ever been on, I've trained like an athlete my body, my mind, and that includes my voice as well, to be able to perform at the highest level I possibly can, both on and off stage. Going on the road, you know, 2 weeks is one thing. 3 weeks, 4 weeks. There were times that I would tour. There would be 40, 50, 60 dates, some back to back. We would do stretches of like 2 weeks before we would take breaks. So there would be 14, 15, 16, 17 shows straight
That's a lot.
every night in a different city. I don't want to be somewhere, God forbid, everybody dies, right? At some point, everybody's going to die. I don't want to be laying somewhere or to take my last breath or to be thinking as I go to be with the Lord, man, I should have tried harder. or I could have been, or maybe I might have done.
Yeah, those things
I don't
can
want
destroy
that.
your life. You should do your
That is
best
this
all the
that
time.
eats away at your soul.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All young men and older men, whoever, especially, you got to get off your ass and you have to do it. Like Nike says, you have to do it. You got to pick yourself up by the bootstraps and be great. Because while you're sitting around doing nothing, there's a lot of other people like me that are out there doing something to become better.
Well, now talking about that, I know that you have been writing some new music. Anything that you can tell us about that?
That's been making the rounds called American Prayer. There's a song called Generation Coming Down that's kind of an older song that I've been working on. I've really been doing a lot of, I've been playing and developing, not developing, but playing and recording and working on a lot of covers. In the past 5, 6, 7 months, I've been doing a lot of covers that then when I sit down and write are having obviously an impact on the new creations that I have. But I have lyrics written down, and I'm working on new music, and it's slowly all coming together.
Okay, so I have a question. This is regarding the time you were touring with Marky Ramone.
Yeah.
So I would like to know a little bit more about your experience. I know that during that tour, well, you guys, the set list was about 40 songs, and it must have taken a lot of stamina to being able to do those shows. So I'm a bit curious about your experience.
Yeah, we did a lot of songs.
Yeah.
Marky, like Jerry only. It's You're not doing 15 songs, you're doing 30, 40 songs a night. And I came up around the Ramones when I was in the Misfits. I was a very young man. I was 20 years old. And guys like the Ramones were around. I remember Joey and Dee Dee and Johnny and CJ. And I remember those guys, Tommy. I remember those dudes. And obviously, he's looking up to them. Joey was and is still, I mean, he's a hero of mine. He's somebody that I've always looked up to. And obviously, that music is just so profound on so many different levels. I respect those guys for who they are personally and what they did in and for music history. So for somebody like Marky Ramone, who really is one of the greatest drummers ever, I mean, he's not a young man anymore, and he gets behind that drum kit, and it's amazing. It's amazing. His dedication to being professional as well. When he gets behind the kit, and he's tweaking everything, and he tunes everything, and every little detail, and he plays that way too. It was an amazingly spiritual thing for me too, to 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 do a deep dive on that music and to really have to learn the lyrics, and then to be able to go and talk to Marky and to hear about Joey and to hear about Johnny and Dee Dee and to hear about those songs and where they came from and what was happening when those songs were written and the mindset of Joey and the mindset of Dee Dee. really gave me the ability to find those guys, to find Joey on a spiritual level and to channel that through what I was doing. And I just remember every night, just there was so much emotion in me, and I used to tell Marky I would be able to, I felt Joey, I could
Oh.
feel him, and my life has just been amazing. And like I said in the Misfits, taking over for somebody, we're not taking over, but standing in the place of somebody like Glenn Danzig. I always hoped that that if and when Glenn looked to what I was doing in something that he created and that he made and set in stone, something that I was carrying on, that he would be proud. And the same with Joey and Dee Dee and Johnny. I and Marky, I always hoped that they would look to what I was doing with their music and be proud of it.
Did you guys end up on good terms after parting ways with Marky? After the tour was over?
Yeah, yeah. There's no bad terms with Marky.
Would you
I
consider like doing another Ramones tour, like if that option was available?
Oh, in a heartbeat. I
Oh,
would say yes in a heartbeat. When I was touring with Marky and doing the stuff that I was doing with him, my life was very tumultuous. There was a lot of things that were going on that were not that were really negative. I was in a bad place, and there was a lot of really difficult things happening around me. And again, so I wasn't the easiest of people to be around, and those were tough times for me. And Marky and his crew and our managers were just amazing. I think that when we did the last tour, there was, and we kind of went our separate ways. It's funny. There's a lot of love there, but in some ways there was some breaths of like, "Whew, all right, good, all right.
well,
But
that
yeah,
things happen.
there's no ill will. I mean, there's love there.
So during the Misfits era, you toured with Megadeth, and you mentioned a couple of times that you received advice from Dave Mustaine.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could shed some light on that piece of advice.
I get emotional when I talk about whether it's Dave Mustaine or Pete Steele or any of these incredible, incredible individuals and musicians that I've come across. But Dave Mustaine in particular, Dave was at a point in his life when we were touring together. He was at a cathartic point in his life, and I really, he saw that I was young and floundering in a lot of ways, and he sensed and knew about the anger that was inside of me, and this rage, this uncontrollable rage that was inside of me that came out in different ways for me than it did for him. And Dave was at a point in his life where he was clean and he wasn't drinking and he wasn't doing drugs anymore. And so here, to me at this point, Dave was kind of not an old man, but he was kind of, he was an old guy to me, and
Of course,
to
yeah.
him, I was this young kid. And so we had this synergy to where we would have these conversations, and I would ask him questions, and nothing was off the table. And we spoke about Metallica, and we spoke about his time in Metallica and what that was like for him, and how it made him feel when it was over. And it was just an amazing thing, because for me, in a world that hurt so bad, and I felt that I didn't belong to, and I had such a hard time fitting into, most times, most of my time, my life journey, I just felt like I didn't belong. when I those times and those conversations I spent with Dave Mustaine, it was like this big scary black angel who had put his wings over me and said, it's going to be all right, and let's walk down this road together. And the last time I saw Dave, the things that he said to me will go with me to my grave.
Oh, I can imagine that it must be tough to be in your position and perhaps not having someone to talk to, because not every like regular Joe can give a performance to 1,000 people, and the pressure perhaps of putting out an album and like making sure that works well and like give a good show and being on the road away from your family and your friends.
Yeah.
So not a lot of people can, this is something perhaps they can hear you.
The pressure is almost un, impossible to put into words, unimaginable. And I certainly understand. And you see these young artists that go off the deep end and do terrible things, or they wind up dead by the time they're 25, 26, 27. There's a reason for that. They're not just bad people. And there's things that happen along the way, and and I get it. So for me, it was a very, very, very painful, difficult world. There was incredible pressure, and you're right. Who was I going to? I didn't have anybody to talk to that really understood. Again, I would go home, and my friends are very, loving and accepting, and they were always there for me. But it was impossible to really for them to understand what I was going through, and it was difficult for me to even try to articulate how I felt, which is why when I'm hanging out with somebody like Dave Mustaine or Twiggy or Dave Brocky, Pete Steele, guys like that, that would talk to me in such a way, and they would level with me and get to a place of understanding. It made me feel normal, and it made me feel like I wasn't so alone. But and also, which a lot of I talk about these things that lead to drug addiction, depression, anxiety, suicide at epidemic levels, both in and out of the music industry. The one thing I always had for me, which I still have in spades, is my faith in God, and my faith in God.
Do you think that kept you centered throughout all this time?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt, if I didn't have God in a relationship with Jesus Christ, I would most definitely be a casualty at this point.
So I don't want to get into politics, mainly because U.S. and Argentina are quite different. But I know that what we have in common right now at this moment is the cancel culture. So
Yeah.
what's your current take on culture, like as an overall, right?
I think that it's a blight on our on humanity. Actually, I think that it's a dress rehearsal for mass execution. It's you can't stifle. Let me put it this way: free speech is important to not only America but everybody. It's not a political thing. It's not a right wing thing. It's not a left wing thing. It's a human thing. We have to be able to have an animating contest of ideas. We have to listen to each other, and we have to be so loving and forgiving and accepting to other people's ideas. Because if we can't share our ideas, we'll never get anywhere. Because we have to trust that people have enough sense to be able to filter the good things from the bad things. Free speech are the contest of ideas to be able to get to a better place. So if you have all these people that have bad ideas, well, let's take all the green people and put them out in a field and put a fence around them and never let them do anything. Well, most people are going to go, well, the green people never did anything. You know, maybe they have some kooky, crazy ideas, but they're not hurting anybody. So let's just, but if you have, for example, people that say, well, it just makes me feel uncomfortable and I'm upset that those green people feel that way and that just makes me uncomfortable. And then you just push them out. Well, where's the sense in that? That's not a fair thing. In the sense of music and art, you're basically you're killing all of the things that allow art and music to blossom. Because if you as well, if you have this, you know, cancel culture, people see that they're losing the ability, like myself, when we're taken, I can't participate on Facebook or Twitter, or, you know, and then other people say, well, if I actually express my opinion, regardless of what that opinion is, and people don't like it, I'm going to be canceled. I'm not going to be allowed to participate. Well, then you start to bend your own integrity. Maybe you start to say things or believe things that you know aren't true. And that's where we go. That's where we go bad. That's where we go bad.
Do you think punk music could have existed if the cancel culture was there back in the late 70s or early
No,
80s?
no. And that's what Glenn was trying to say. He wasn't saying that a song like Last Caress now would necessarily get canceled. Glenn was saying, if you had, there's always going to be people that are going to be pissed and they're going to come, they're going to want to throw a water balloon at you or whatever. They're going to be mad at you. But what we have now are organizations that are highly effective at what they do, that are backed by lots and lots of money. They're backed by other corporations and businesses that are all interconnected and working together to take groups of people and individuals like myself and just disappear them. And so that, like I was saying before, has a stifling effect. And so if you take that element away, then you don't have a punk movement. Back then in the 70s, if you had this cancel culture that would have just stopped all the people that were saying, that were expressing their opinions about the government, they were expressing their opinions about social things. There was, you know, and to say, you know, I got something to say. I killed your baby today, or I killed your mother today in the 70s, and especially in the late 70s.
Yeah.
That was a big thing. It doesn't seem like that nowadays, but it was. And so if you had record companies and media and governments saying, well, you can't do that, then you have no punk movement. You have no rock. You have none of this freedom to just express yourself and be whoever you are. It was a dangerous thing back in the 70s, 80s, and even in the 90s, with me coming up, to have a mohawk or to wear combat boots or to look different. There's not much of a, you know, it's not that dangerous today to do that.
All right. So I have a few quick questions. So, first of all, considering that in some of your songs you talk about horror and sci fi topics,
Mm-hmm.
what do you consider to be the most frightening thing humanity is facing in the near future?
I think the most frightening thing that mankind is facing in the future, whether it's real
Yeah.
or false, is an alien invasion.
Okay.
You know, think of a movie like War of the Worlds. That is the most terrifying thing I could think of, and would probably be the most terrifying thing that mankind would face.
when
Again,
it
there's some
comes,
people that say that, oh, there's a real invasion coming or there's a fake. Either way, terrifying.
yeah, when it comes to horror movies, definitely hands down, aliens is the scariest thing for me. So yeah.
I'll take a haunted house. I'll take a poltergeist in my house any day of the week over UFO invasion.
Agreed, agreed. So, right now, do you have a top three conspiracy theories that you could share with us on top of your
Um,
head, real quick?
I love I don't the Russian conspiracy theory about the hikers, those campers that all disappeared. You know, they just found their shoes and stuff. I forget. I forget the name of that. I love, Bigfoot conspiracy theories. And I also I'm totally into. I love the alien, going down the alien rabbit holes, and especially with Arturo, we love listening to these podcasts about all these things. It's awesome. But I don't
So,
know what you consider a conspiracy theory. Some people, like, for example, in America, they think that a conspiracy theory, for example, is like, Joe Biden actually won and President, Trump actually lost.
hey, so the one famous person you wanted to meet so badly, but regretted afterwards.
Um, I forget his name. Val Kilmer.
Really? May I ask
Val Kilmer.
why?
Ah, again, what an incredible actor he is.
I remember him in the Saint movie, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
such a
yeah.
great movie. Yeah.
He was. I don't. Can we curse on this thing?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, Val Kilmer was the biggest douchebag I have ever met in my entire life.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. What a letdown. What a jerk.
Okay. All right. So, last but not least, so what do you think about trap music and all these new wave of kids that perhaps took the looks of from punk rock but not the attitude?
Um, I don't necessarily mind that. I don't mind that. It's kind of funny. An older dude like me, and again, only 46. Not like I'm old, but I remember the days where if you walked out of your house with a green mohawk, chances are you're coming home with at least a bloody nose, or a black eye. I remember when it was dangerous. It was literally dangerous to be gay, and it was dangerous to wear a chain and do these things. And now it's not so much. It's not. And so it comes back to attitude is everything. It's easy to put on clothes. It's easy to do something to your hair. It's a lot different to have an attitude and to have actual virtue or to actually have principle or to stand on something. And so it's true. Attitude really is everything. And that's one of the reasons that's one of the problems with music, art, and culture today is that it is very vacuous and it is very malleable because of the relativity of a lot of the participants in the culture and music. Because again, going back to the the woke culture, the cancel culture aspect of everything, when young people are afraid to be themselves, where they have to be more like somebody perhaps that's not themselves in order to fit in, does terrible things to individuality. And once we do away with individuality, then everything is gray.
How do you feel when you see a kid perhaps wearing a Misfits t-shirt and probably do not know what Misfits is all about? Like, do you feel angry or perhaps like, what the hell? What are your like, or perhaps nothing? It's like, okay, whatever.
I feel joy and gratitude. I feel joy and gratitude because I was a part of that. I was a part of something. If that person doesn't know it, it's just because that person doesn't know who the Misfits are. You know, and I've walked past people that have no idea. Even if I explained to them, they would have no idea. And that's fine because I know, and the truth is that I was a part of that. And instead of, which is another problem in our society and in American culture, if I walked around and just had this, you know, and judged that person, oh, they don't know what the Misfits are. They have no idea who Glenn Danzig is. They don't know Dig Up Her Bones or, you know, Skulls. That's a crappy attitude, and those that would just eat away at me. What a shitty attitude to have instead of going, wow, that's amazing. Look what I was part of. And as well, my kids are looking at me. I have a 12-year-old daughter, and you know, she's, Daddy, I was in the mall and I saw these people. They had, you know, a Ramone shirt or a Misfit shirt on. You know, knowing full well that they probably don't know a Ramones or a Misfit song. And I say that's an amazing thing. That's an amazing thing. You see that your
Yeah,
dreams can
Daddy
come
was
true.
there. Yeah.
Right, right. You put your mind to anything and you work hard, and you can do anything you put your mind to.
Well, that's a great message. So thank you so much for your time today, Michael. We really, really appreciate. As one last request, we would like you to leave a message for our audience. We were wondering if you could say "Aguante Pogopedia."
Say that again.
Aguante Pogopedia.
Aguanta Pogopedia.